The arrival of the impossible warship, the Empire of Dargus, was the most feared force in the galaxy. For centuries, they had conquered world after world, crushing anyone who dared to resist. Their fleet was unmatched, their armies unstoppable. Every species that had challenged them had been wiped from existence. But today, something changed. In the cold darkness of space, above the capital planet Dargus Prime, a ship appeared, not from hyperspace, not from any known coordinates. It simply emerged. A warship unlike anything ever seen, a ship beyond imagination. The Imperial High Command watched in stunned silence as the ship drifted forward. It was massive, larger than their greatest battleships, but it had no visible engines, no thrusters, no markings of any known empire. The ship was pitch black, its surface smooth and reflective, as if it was made of liquid metal. It had no visible weapons, yet every instinct screamed that it was dangerous. Where did it come from? Grand Admiral Theros growled, gripping the metal railing in front of him. No one answered. No alarms had been triggered. No warp signatures had been detected. The ship had simply appeared, as if it had been there all along, just waiting to be noticed. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Empire of Dargus felt fear. The first contact. The Imperial fleet wasted no time. A squadron of warcruisers moved toward the ship, their weapons primed. Admiral Theros barked orders. Hail them. Find out who they are. A transmission was sent. No response. Another was sent, this time in all galactic languages. Again, nothing. Maybe it's abandoned, one of the officers suggested. Then the ship moved. Without any visible propulsion, it glided forward with impossible speed. It stopped just outside the planet's orbit, as if studying the Imperial defenses. A deep, low hum vibrated through every ship in the fleet. Their instruments glitched, power flickered, targeting systems went offline. And then a single message came through. A voice, cold, emotionless, ancient. You are not ready. Panic in the Empire. Inside the Imperial war room, the High Command erupted in chaos. Not ready? Not ready for what? This must be a trick, some new alien threat. Should we open fire? Grand Admiral Theros narrowed his eyes. He was not a man to be intimidated. The Empire of Dargus bowed to no one. If this ship wanted to play games, they would show it the true power of the Empire. Destroy it, he ordered. In an instant, the Imperial fleet unleashed hell. The attack that failed. Hundreds of plasma cannons, energy torpedoes, and railguns fired in unison. The darkness of space was lit up as the full force of the Empire rained down on the unknown ship. But the warship did not move. The attacks passed straight through it, as if it wasn't really there, as if it existed in a different reality. Gasps filled the war room. Impossible. Then, without warning, the warship vanished. Not in a jump, not in a retreat. It simply ceased to exist. For the first time in their long history, the Empire of Dargus had no idea what to do. And then, the warship reappeared, this time above their fleet. A warning from the unknown. Before anyone could react, the warship sent another transmission. This time, every screen, every device, every ship in the Empire displayed the same message. A single sentence. Prepare for the war that ends all wars. Then, just as it had appeared, the warship vanished again. The Empire of Dargus, the strongest force in the galaxy, had been warned. And for the first time in history, they were afraid. Humanity's best minds are stunned. The Empire of Dargus had faced many enemies over the centuries. Rebellions, rival empires, even ancient horrors lurking in deep space, but nothing compared to the warship that defied reality itself. The moment it vanished, fear spread across the Imperial High Command. Every sensor, every probe, every fleet was put on high alert. But there was nothing to track, nothing to find. The warship was simply gone. But its message remained. Prepare for the war that ends all wars. A mystery beyond science. The Imperial Science Division, the best minds in the known galaxy, scrambled to analyze the brief encounter. How did it appear without detection? How did it resist every attack? Theories spread through the Imperial War Council like wildfire. Was it an ancient precursor ship from a forgotten civilization? Was it a weapon from a rival empire using unknown stealth technology? Or was it something else entirely, something beyond their understanding? Grand Admiral Theros sat at the head of the war table, his face dark with frustration. He turned to Lord Varian, the Empire's most ruthless strategist. Tell me, Varian, what are we facing? Varian's response was chilling. A power we cannot control, a silent threat. For the next several days, the warship did not return, but its presence haunted the Empire. Entire sectors went into lockdown. Fleets were ordered to remain on constant patrol. Spies and informants were sent across the galaxy to search for any trace of the ship's origin. But no empire, no scientist, no historian had ever recorded anything like it. Then, the warship sent another message. This time, it did not appear. There was no transmission, no hologram, just a single set of coordinates appearing on every Imperial screen. A location deep in the uncharted void of space, a place where no empire dared to go. The Empire's fatal decision. Grand Admiral Theros clenched his jaw. He had conquered entire star systems. He had crushed rebellions, wiped out civilizations. He was not about to be toyed with. Standing before the Imperial High Command, his voice was cold and sharp. This warship dares to challenge the Empire. Then we will hunt it down. The order was given. A fleet of the Empire's deadliest warships, 5 massive dreadnoughts, 20 battlecruisers, and 1,000 fighter escorts were sent to the unknown coordinates. A force that had never been defeated. A force that would soon realize they were walking into a trap. The warship's first move. The Imperial fleet tore through hyperspace, their destination set, the uncharted void where the mysterious warship had sent its coordinates. Grand Admiral Theros sat in the command seat of the flagship Iron Fist, his gaze fixed on the swirling stars ahead. The Empire of Dargos had conquered countless civilizations, had never once lost a battle. This would be no different. Ready all weapons, Theros ordered. We will find this warship and end this nonsense. But as they dropped out of hyperspace, they found nothing. No enemy fleet, no warship, just empty space. The first glitch. Admiral, scanners show. Nothing. The officers on the bridge exchanged uneasy glances. They had arrived at the exact coordinates, yet there was no sign of any ship, structure, or anomaly. Theros narrowed his eyes. It's a trick. Spread the fleet. Search for cloaked vessels. The fleet split into squadrons, scanning every inch of the sector. They searched for hours. Nothing. Then, without warning, every ship's systems went dark. The lights flickered. The engines sputtered. The weapons powered down. Then a deep, vibrating hum echoed through every vessel. And the warship appeared. The impossible arrival. It didn't emerge from hyperspace. It didn't decloak. It was just there, directly in the center of the Imperial fleet, as if it had been watching them the whole time. And before anyone could react, the entire fleet lost control. Admiral, we've lost navigation. Weapons offline. I can't access the command systems. Panic spread like wildfire. The most advanced warships in the galaxy, powerless before a single vessel. Then, a message came through every ship. A voice, ancient and unyielding. You were warned. The attack begins. The warship moved. It didn't fly like any known vessel. It slid through space, vanishing and reappearing like a ghost. And then, it attacked. It didn't fire lasers. It didn't launch missiles. Instead, the warship released a pulse of energy, an invisible force that passed through every Imperial vessel. And one by one, The ships began to disintegrate, not explode, not break apart. They simply ceased to exist. Dreadnoughts vanished midair. Fighters faded into nothing. Officers screamed as the decks beneath them turned into empty space. Half the fleet was gone in seconds. A desperate escape. Thoros watched in horror as his armada, the might of the Empire of Dargos, was erased from reality. His voice was sharp with rage. Retirarieti. Get us out of here. Now. The remaining ships scrambled to escape. Engines sputtered back to life just in time for the survivors to jump into hyperspace. As the fleet fled, the warship did not pursue. It simply watched. And before the last ship jumped, one final message came through. A whisper that sent chills down every soldier's spine. This was mercy. A dark future revealed. The Imperial fleet limped back to Dargos Prime. The once invincible armada reduced to a handful of battered warships. The survivors, soldiers, officers, and engineers were silent, haunted by what they had witnessed. The warship had not fought them. It had erased them. And the last message still echoed in their minds. This was mercy. A broken empire. Inside the Imperial War Room, Grand Admiral Theros stood before the High Command. His hands were clenched, his jaw tight. The fleet had never been defeated like this. The Empire of Dargos ruled by power, by fear. Now, they were the ones afraid. Across the chamber, Lord Varian, the Emperor's top strategist, watched Theros with a cold gaze. "Tell us, Admiral," Varian said, his voice sharp as a blade. "What did you see?" Theros exhaled, his voice steady but dark. "I saw the end of our empire." A silence heavier than any battlefield filled the room. The message decoded. The warship had sent data before vanishing. The Imperial scientists, the best in the galaxy, worked day and night to decode it. What was the purpose of this ship? Why had it warned them? After days of analysis, the results were terrifying. The data contained historical records, but from the future. A future where the Empire of Dargos no longer existed. The future war. The records described a war unlike any before. An enemy, one not of flesh and blood, not of machine or mind. A force that erased civilizations from existence, not by weapons, not by conquest, but by erasing them from time itself. Worlds did not burn. They did not fall in battle. They were forgotten, as if they had never existed. And in the end, the Empire of Dargos was gone, not defeated, not enslaved. It had never been. The warship's true purpose. The warship was not an enemy. It was a warning. It had come from a future where no empire remained, where all of history had been rewritten by an unknown force. A future where the Empire of Dargos had failed to prepare. But this time, things were different. This time, the past had been warned. A choice must be made. Lord Varian's fingers tapped against the cold steel of the war table. "If this is true," he murmured, his voice emotionless, "then we have only one choice." Theros turned toward him, eyes narrowing. "And what is that?" Varian's lips curled into a shadow of a smile. "We do not wait for this enemy to find us." He leaned forward, his voice filled with cold resolve. "We go to war first. The enemy arrives." The Empire of Dargos had ruled the stars for centuries. They had crushed every enemy, conquered every world they desired. But now, for the first time, they were preparing for a war they did not start. A war they did not understand. A war against an enemy that erased existence itself. The first signs. Across the Empire, fleets were mobilized. The factories of Dargos Prime churned out warships at an unprecedented rate. Every scientist, engineer, and strategist was pulled into the war effort. But deep in the void of space, something was happening. It started with silence. Entire systems stopped responding. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just gone. No distress calls. No wreckage. As if they had never existed at all. A terrifying discovery. Grand Admiral Theros stood aboard the Iron Fist, staring at the empty space where the colony world Voron 7 had once thrived. It was gone. No ruins, no debris, no sign that life had ever been there. Even the imperial records of the planet were vanishing. Data logs were corrupting. Holomaps were rearranging, as if Voron 7 had never been part of the Empire. The war had begun. The enemy reveals itself. Alarms blared. The fleet's sensors, designed to detect anything from cloaked ships to hyperspace jumps, picked up something impossible. A hole in space itself. It was not a ship, not a fleet. It was a void, a place where light, matter, and even time itself seemed to break apart. And then they came. Figures emerged from the void. Not ships, not living beings. Shapes that flickered like shattered reflections in a broken mirror. They had no form, no heat, no energy signature. They simply moved, warping through space as if reality bent around them. And when they reached the nearest Imperial battleship, it vanished. The battle begins. Fire EV or I thing. Theros roared. The Imperial fleet unleashed its full firepower. Plasma cannons, railguns, proton missiles. The void things did not dodge. They did not defend themselves. They simply kept moving forward. The weapons passed through them, not missing, not absorbed, as if they were never real. Ship after ship vanished, erased from existence before the crew could even scream. A fleet that had survived 1,000 wars was now helpless. And then, across every Imperial ship, a message appeared on the screens. The same words the warship had warned them with. You are not ready. A desperate retreat. Theros' hands trembled as he watched his fleet disappear one by one. This was not war. This was annihilation. He turned to his officers. Order the retreat. Now. The remaining ships turned and fled. Engines burned at maximum power, jumping to hyperspace as fast as possible. And as the Iron Fist jumped away, Theros caught one last glimpse of the void. The enemy was not chasing them. They didn't need to, because time itself was on their side, a last hope for victory. The Empire of Dargos was on the brink of collapse. The enemy had arrived, not with fleets, not with weapons, but with oblivion. Entire planets vanished, erased from history. Star systems disappeared without a trace. No remains. No survivors. Even the records of their existence were fading from the Imperial archives. It was as if the Empire had never been. And soon, there would be nothing left. The warship returns. Grand Admiral Theros and his surviving commanders had retreated to the Imperial capital, Dargos Prime. They had lost 98% of their fleet. No survivors, no wreckage, only memories, and even those were fading. Then, just as hope seemed lost, the impossible warship returned. It appeared in orbit over Dargos Prime, just as mysteriously as before. No weapons fired, no messages, just its presence, a silent force that defied time itself. And this time, it opened a channel, a message from the future, the warship's final warning. The voice echoed across every ship, every station, every Capitol building on the planet. This war cannot be won with weapons. The enemy does not fight. It erases. Your technology, your ships, your armies, they mean nothing. The Imperial commanders were stunned. What could they do if war was impossible? But the warship was not finished. We have seen the future. There is only one way to survive. You must build us. Now. A desperate plan. The Imperial scientists scrambled to analyze the warship's transmissions. The data it sent was beyond their understanding, technology centuries ahead of anything they had ever built. But there was no time to question it. The message was clear. They must create the warship before the enemy erases everything. Blueprints, energy calculations, new propulsion methods, all downloaded directly from the warship into the Empire's most advanced research stations. But there was one problem. Time was running out. The enemy was still coming. Entire systems were vanishing by the hour. If the Empire could not build the warship in time, it wouldn't matter. The warship's sacrifice. The void opened again. The enemy had arrived. Thousands of shifting, shapeless figures emerged in the skies above Dargos Prime. Time began to break apart. Buildings flickered between existing and not. People vanished, their names erased from history. The Empire's capital, their last stronghold, was beginning to disappear. Then, the warship moved, faster than anything in the galaxy. It struck first. A blast of pure unknown energy erupted from its hull, shaking reality itself. The enemy halted. For the first time, they hesitated. The warship turned toward Theros' fleet. One final message came through. Now you have a chance. Then, before the enemy could react, the warship charged straight into the void. And in an explosion of pure light and darkness, both the warship and the enemy fleet vanished. The capital stabilized. The people stopped fading. For a moment, there was silence. The warship was gone, but its mission was complete. The Empire had a chance to survive. Now, they had to act. The future has changed. The warship was gone, but it had bought the Empire time. For the first time, the void things had been stopped, if only for a moment. The people of the Empire of Dargos, once conquerors, now stood at the edge of extinction. The enemy would return. And this time, there would be no warning. The Empire had one last chance, one last hope, a race against time. The scientists, engineers, and strategists of the Empire worked at a pace never seen before. The warship's blueprints, gifted by their future selves, were beyond their understanding. Energy sources that defied physics, weapons that did not fire projectiles, but instead bent reality itself. A ship that was not just a machine, but something more. It was not built to fight wars. It was built to undo them. And if they could complete it before the enemy returned, they might just have a chance. The enemy strikes again, but the void never sleeps. Weeks after the warship's sacrifice, entire systems began disappearing again. Whole fleets vanished without a fight. The Imperial archives, once holding the history of thousands of years, began to fracture. Memories of planets blurred. Entire civilizations once recorded in history no longer existed. The enemy was moving faster. The Empire's time was running out. And then, the worst happened. The Imperial capital, Dargos Prime, was next. The final stand. The new warship was not finished, but it was close enough. As the void things descended upon the capital, the unfinished warship was powered up for the first time. The ship was not fully tested. Its weapons were not calibrated, but there was no choice. Launch it. Grand Admiral Theros gave the final order. The massive vessel, the greatest creation in Imperial history, lifted into the skies. The void things came forward. Reality bent around them. They reached for the planet. And then, the warship fired. The power of the future. The weapon did not fire energy. It did not shoot missiles. Instead, it sent out a pulse, one that rippled through space and time. And for the first time, the enemy reeled back. The void trembled. The warship had not attacked the enemy. It had rewritten history. In an instant, every planet that had been erased returned. Every system that had been lost was restored. The Empire of Dargos still existed. And the enemy, for the first time, they feared. A new era begins. The void things did not return. For the first time in history, the timeline had changed. The war that had already been lost was now won. But Theros knew the war was not truly over. The enemy was not destroyed, only delayed. And so, as the warship returned to Dargos Prime, the Empire changed forever. They were no longer conquerors. They were guardians, not of planets, not of power, but of time itself. And as long as they existed, the enemy would never win again.